Hey guys, good evening to y'all, or good morning, or whatever it is in your time zone. Hey guys, in 3, 2, 1. Oh, you made it. Yeah, I'm a predictable human being. Might be the German in me, but I just can't shake the habit. So yeah, good for you. Thank you for showing up. Really appreciate it. Um, Something's new this time around. I'm sure you've already heard from Cred, our new sponsors Blockfolio. So yeah, their links are also in the description as usual, and I really appreciate their support. Um, we have this mini video that I'm gonna play so you know what's up, and then we can start the stream. Evening Dawn, damn, Dawn is early. Yeah, I mean, I'm a minute early. I was just sitting there waiting, so yeah. And given that you guys complained about Cred's audio on this, we've just muted it for now, but we'll see what we do with it. Wow, so fancy. Yeah, it is. It is. So there we go. That's that. Really appreciate their support. Super happy to work with them. Tesla and Kathy wrecked lol. Yeah, we'll look at a few things. Tesla is interesting, I think. So we'll see what's up with that. Thanks for the mute on the ad, Don. No problem. We'll figure something out with it if we kind of make the music a little bit quieter than normal, or yeah, whatever. We'll figure something out. Credit is terrible in general. Always has been. Always has been. Blockfolio gives me PTSD. I mean, yeah, good old times, right? I mean, that reminds you of 2017, and but yeah, I mean, I love 2017, and I just have good memories with it. But I understand if other people kind of bag held and were kind of afraid to open it up back up. But yeah. Will Cred show up today? I don't know. If he wants to jump in the comments, he can. But I mean, he doesn't have to. And the job of bullying me isn't a full-time job. But yeah, let's get rolling with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's still on the monthly. It's just kind of getting ridiculous. I mean, I love to see it, but it's getting ridiculous on on the green candles. But then again, it's not like we're not used to that, right? We've had it before. Just kind of going through it again. It's kind of insane given the difference in valuation from today to back then. But I mean, yeah, I mean, Bitcoin just likes to do these things, shatter all expectations. I for sure didn't expect this at the beginning of this year or even at the beginning of last year, right? So definitely positively surprised. But yeah, on the monthly chart, there's nothing really standing out. I mean, there's no support built up. But then again, we have that on the weekly. We've kind of approached that. We've approached that last week. Let me actually hide this away real quick. But didn't quite manage to get there, right? So we got close, but bounced before then. And now everyone's asking, okay, was that the dip? And we'll go over it, see if it was the dip, see if you can make something of this. In general, I still think this is really good support. So if it does get there, that's really good support. But it obviously doesn't have to get there, right? So if you're looking at the daily, does it have to get in that kind of 32, 38 range? Obviously not, right? We can reverse before. It's happened before in this rally. We've just kind of been front-running levels over and over and over again. The thing that I'm watching right now is going to be this daily close, right? So we've had this sell-off and bearish retest in here that led to a further sell-off into a bounce into resistance, right? Which got rejected yesterday. Now, we've kind of been trading above that all day today. And And if we close like this, I would expect this to turn into support, and then for this to just generally start walking back up. If we do not close above it, I think you'd have to expect lower, right? So that's kind of the thing that bulls have to manage today. Keep this candle as it is. As long as it closes back above 49.7, I think there's no real good technical reason to be too bearish, right? I mean, for me, that would be the reversal of the sell-off, and that would be me expecting higher prices, right? So anything in here is fine. Obviously, anything above also fine. Anything below this red box or in the red box would have me worried, right? So that's pretty much the easy answer to that question. Are we gonna keep going up? If we close like this, I expect so. If we don't, if we actually close this back red in the next 4 hours, I'd expect it to just go down significantly, right? And in general, this is on the trade side of things, this is one of my favorite setups. So whenever you have a resistance, right, like this one, and the resistance straight back above it, and you actually close back below the first resistance, so below this one, the trade into the next one is usually a good short, and the same is true for longs, right? So when you have a support and the support below it, and if you close above this support and then dip into the next one the next day, oftentimes it kind of gets bought back up, right? So I wouldn't get too aggressive yet, just based on the fact that we still have 5 hours to go. But I mean, it's looking good for now. So I hope the bulls can kind of maintain that momentum. And I mean, if they can't, there's a pretty clear setup there. Like, let's say we close back below this, stop above the high, short into next support, right? That would be a pretty good setup. And then the opposite is also true. If we do close above it, stop somewhere down there and then targeting much higher. So no matter where this closes, I think you're going to get a trade setup. And I mean, it's obviously like if you're bearish, you don't have to take the bullish setup. And if you're bullish, you don't have to take the bearish setup. It's just something to note, because that gives you a good kind of risk-defined setup. Any questions to that, or is that clear? Because I think this is actually a really good situation to be in when you have a trade, no matter where this goes. So yeah, I love these kind of trade setups. Does this feel like a start of infinite consolidation? I like that thought. I could see this go sideways for a while. I think that'd be most bullish, just based on the fact of how high we've gone. So just consolidate, give it some time. Maybe put in a monthly candle that actually looks like at least a tiny bit red. Maybe not this month, but maybe next month. Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad. In general, I think this is going to be an interesting close. So that's going to be exciting tonight. Bring back Salsa. I mean, I could ask him. If you guys want to see Salsa, I mean, I can ask him. See if he's in for a Friday session. Above 52K equals a one-way ticket to Citadel. Below 49K Goblin Town. That's well put, yeah. But I don't even think we need to go above 52K. I think we need to close above 49.7 today. So bears would basically have to retrace all of this. So 2%. It's not a big number, but it's still, like, it is a number. So we're trading back above there, which is good. Every 20% dump has been followed by consolidation this bull market. Yep. So maybe we get something like this again. And I mean, if you want to compare the two, then we'd be in this bounce area, right? So we would have to go, like, if you want to compare this to this is basically the first bounce, right? It would be in here, just, yeah. I mean, I'm not the biggest fractal guy, but that would be the kind of closest comparison. Agree with bounces and sideways, yeah. So yeah, that's that. Bitcoin's super easy, I think, right now. And yeah, the moment I start talking, obviously nukes. So we'll see how the daily closes. That's all I'm gonna say. On the lower time frames, I don't think there's much to note. Something I found funny yesterday was this kind of head and shoulder setup. Something that you see oftentimes, like you have this daily resistance, right? You get a head and shoulder setup, and it breaks down, and then fucks everyone over that kind of shorted it. But yeah. Okay, that's Bitcoin. I don't think there's any questions to it, so I'll just move on. Talk about ETH. Make it stop done. Yeah. I did already. Yeah. ETHUSD also interesting because it's actually closed exactly at all-time high last week. Something that we've talked about before, all-time high is a strong level. You'd expect a bounce there, but the fact that it actually retested all-time high is not something that you want to see. For me, that's a sign of weakness. So I would have to actually go back and close back above 1.9 to really look strong. On the lower time frames, there's a little bit more to work with. I think 1.7 would be 1.7 would be enough. But yeah, I don't like the all-time high retest at all. That's not necessarily something that you see in bull markets very often. Yeah, we've just gotten it. Perfect close there. So, I mean, you'd expect a bounce, right? Like I said, that's just kind of how these things work. You have a strong support level. That's going to bounce. But the fact that it got tested, it has me worried. So, for ETH, I want to see this close back above 1.750. So quite a way to go for me to actually be considering this on the bullish side. Head and shoulders on Nasdaq too. Yeah, I mean we've kind of seen the traditional market sell off a little bit today, and quite vicious at that. Like this sell-off, this low time frame sell-off, was quite aggressive. So we'll see how that goes. I think there's still some correlation going on. I'd be careful with just blindly trading the correlation, but there's still correlation going on. So when this dumps, you're still gonna see effects ripple over into the crypto markets. But as we've seen before, that doesn't have to last long. If you want to see weakness, just look at ETH BTC. Yeah, it's actually one of the ones where I'm like, I mean, it's just super ugly, right? It's at weekly support, so there's something. But yeah, I'm not a big fan. Like, I could see a bounce from support into resistance, but as long as it hasn't reclaimed this resistance, I mean, you're not gonna see me be overtly bullish on ETH. It just doesn't make much sense to me, right? I mean, there's now even this kind of situation going on. You had this massive inverse head and shoulders, and now you're gonna probably get like this situation where you get like a head and shoulders thingy. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit as long as it's trading below resistance. And I know that that's missing the first bit of the move, and I know that we're at support, right? So you're missing like 20% of the move. But really, if we're starting to close back above resistance, I mean, sky is the limit, right? It's an easy double, in my opinion. So I don't have to get aggressive here if I can get aggressive once the resistances are actually out of the way. Yeah, with the newsletter, guys, it had a ton of good info. Yeah, I can only agree. The newsletter's always good. Cred makes sure of it. I put some thought into it, and then Cred makes gold out of it. So I can only recommend that too. Stonks dumping, Bitcoin about to dump. It's how it's been working. We'll see if that correlation kind of continues. But then again, like we've talked about the correlation of stocks. Like, I mean, Bitcoin is correlated with stocks in here, to a degree, I think, if I remember correctly, in here, and is now up how much? I mean, it's basically a 10 times 10 from the low, and from these points, just yeah, I mean, it's just a mega moon, right? So macro wise, I wouldn't take too much. I wouldn't take the correlation too much into consideration. I mean, if the SPX just goes down 40%, you're obviously gonna see fall back, and like in general, just a nuke on Bitcoin. That'd be very surprising if it didn't happen. But I mean, no one's really expecting that on the traditional markets, right? So it's something to watch for the low time frame trader. So if you're trading the 1 hour and you see, okay, this is just selling off constantly, then you're gonna see some spillover into the crypto markets, but macro wise doesn't change too much. Can you tell me how you set the stop loss when Bitcoin can dump 20% in 1 hour and you wait for candle closes for confirmation? Sometimes waiting for confirmation, you're down 20% already. It depends on how you trade, right? So I generally speaking trade the higher time frames, right? So for me, if let's say I'm in a short from up here and I have a stop loss, I always have a stop loss in place, right? And I have a stop loss up here. We've talked about this before. We talked about this exact setup when we were trading up here, right? So it's the same kind of setup, and the target was, I think, somewhere down here. It's whatever, right? So you still have this kind of risk reward setup that is in your favor, and you have like a 13% stop loss, and then the moment you actually get a close back above here, on top of that, like let's say this candle closes like this, you're gonna be looking for an exit out of the trade because you've been invalidated, right? This candle closed up here, you've been invalidated, and then you get out like 6-7% before your stop loss. So it's just basically giving you some extra room and making you lose less. It's not okay. I'm just gonna wait for the stop for the candle close and then stop out. You always have both on Bitcoin anyway. So you have a hard stop where you're like, okay, I want to get out if this price gets hit, and then you have a stop. In general, I mean, if you're trading low time frames, a 13% kind of stop loss is going to freak you out. But if you're trading the higher time frames, I mean, it's just cost of the business, right? You don't have to over leverage in with these kind of trades, because I mean, if you, let's say you're right on this, and you didn't risk as much, obviously, as you would have on a lower time frame trade. But if you're right on this is 30% move, right? Even a smaller risk basically makes up for it. So you kind of control your risk by position sizing. But it's not for everyone. For me, this makes much more sense than the low time frame stuff. And it's always been kind of more reliable to me. But if you don't like that, you can obviously just go to the 1 hour and find your setups there. It's just on the 1 hour you have, like, let's say the prince of whatever decides to buy in or get out of crypto, and you're trading a 1 hour setup. That guy market buying or market selling is gonna stop you out, right? Let's say you're trading this and you're like, okay, this is the lower high. I'm short from in here. This is the lower high, so my stop loss is there, and my target is maybe in this area, right? That works, but like I said, if like some random dude decides to buy some, that can easily just wick you out and still go down, right? So there's additional risk the lower time frame you go, because for the higher time frames to change, there has to be a bigger change than just, okay, one random guy deciding to get in or out. And it's the same thing, like, I mean, if you look at Dogecoin, for example, with Elon Musk tweeting, right? Let's say you're trading this low time frame and you shorted somewhere in here or somewhere in here, and you're targeting lower, and then Elon Musk tweets and you stopped out, right? Didn't really change anything on the chart, but it's just how it is. And that's not going to happen on the higher time frames. But you're also not going to get as many signals on the higher time frames. You're not going to get as many trades, basically. So has its advantages, has its disadvantages. For me, it's always been better. And obviously the same is true for the long side, right? Let's say we close back above there, you get an entry in support, have your stop loss down there, and your target somewhere above the highs, right? And then that's also a good trade. And you're also going to lose 10% if it does stop you out. And you're also going to be, like, if let's say the candle closes down here, you're going to get out and you're only losing a little bit. So that's the advantage of that kind of trading style. Now, I know not everyone does it like that, but for me, it's just kind of like that's the best way. And I've tried a couple in my trading career to kind of limit the losses, because the worst thing that you can do, in my opinion, like you're a trader, right? You have some expertise in the market, you know kind of what's going on. The worst part about like just taking that trade and sticking with it is you're pretty sure the moment you start getting closes down here that you're actually wrong, right? And then you just see price go down to your stop and then you lose your entire stop and you're like, ah, shit. Oh, well. But like all that experience, all that knowledge that you've built up during your trading career is just completely wasted by that, because there's a lot of stuff that can change in between. So like just having a stop and not having an earlier invalidation than your stop just kind of makes you waste a bunch of money that you wouldn't have to, in my opinion anyway. So that's just kind of how I look at the market. Hope that answers your question. Cred shilling the newsletter. Nice. Always like to see that. Hey Don, can we look at BAT? Yeah, we can. Just give me a bit. So your hard stop loss is 1% loss? No. It depends on kind of what you want to do. But generally speaking, it's not as, okay, I just want to, like, this moves 10%, 20%, and then I just lose 1% of my trading accounts. Generally not how I look at things. I usually risk more on good setups anyway. And when I see a bad setup, I don't mind risking less. So it depends on the setup. The better the setup and the better the confluence and the better kind of, like, the thing is, when you're reasonably sure that something is going to happen, right? Let's say you're reasonably sure that the top's in here. You have like some whatever information where you think, okay, it's very, very clear that this is going to go down, right? If you then take a trade at that resistance here, and then you risk 1% of your trading balance, even though you're like 90% sure that this is gonna go down, and you have like good reason to believe so, I think you're wasting your time, right? So it always depends. Okay, how high is your conviction? How is your reasoning good? You kind of have to judge all of that, and then sometimes you just have to bet big, right? And I mean, I prefer betting big on the long side, just based on the fact that the rewards for betting big on the long side are much bigger than the rewards for kind of betting big on the short side. But I mean, everyone can kind of do what they want or what they do best. Sometimes some people just short better than they long, and that's fine. But in general, like, you want to be betting big at bottoms, and then, I mean, just risking off when you get a really good short setup, right? So that's kind of my view on things. Like the 1% rule or the 5% rule. I used to follow most of it, and then I realized that like I was giving away a lot of money for no reason at all, and I had an issue with that. When I saw ETH at $80, like didn't want to just risk 5%. Or 1% or 2%. Like, I was reasonably sure that this was going to be the bottom, so I bet bigger. And back then I was like, maybe I'm making a mistake. But ever since then, I've just kind of realized, okay, in my trading career, every time that I've been pretty damn certain that we're close to bottom on the long side, right? It's just been pretty damn accurate, and I'm willing to risk more on that. You obviously shouldn't all in. You shouldn't just risk even half of everything you've got, but there has to be a balance, right? Sometimes you have a good read on things, and then you don't want to be risking 1%. So yeah. So that's that. Like I said, ETH at resistance. Bitcoin still waiting for the close. ETH BTC looking pitiful. I don't like this one bit. Has to do much more to kind of make me bullish. Why did my charts disappear? My lines disappear. No, because I was looking at the wrong thing. So that's like the big ones, right? And then someone asked for BAT, so we'll do that. It's one that I've been watching too. It's interesting how we've kind of undercut the range and are now trying to poke back above it. One of my favorite setups is usually a range that gets broken down and then a range that gets reclaimed. That's pretty damn close to that. So I'll have an eye on it. I don't mind it. Like, I mean, if you're in from before the impulse, I wouldn't just get out at the first resistance. I would kind of see how it goes, right? And then if it goes back down, that's just how the business sometimes ends, right? You get a good entry and it goes up and you're like, I don't want to sell it because I see more in this setup. Then I don't mind just holding on for a little bit. Because sometimes, like let's say you get out break even and you give all the impulse back to the market. I don't think that's necessarily a good way to look at it, because if you're looking at it that way, you're always going to miss out on the big movers, and that's kind of where the money is in crypto, right? So sometimes it's just you get a good entry, you hold on to it, and then if it does go back to your entry, you're pretty damn certain that it's not good, right? So I would stick with that setup. And I'm going to be looking for entries if we do actually start closing back above that range low. CryptoKitties marked the top, NFT marking the new top. I mean, the funny thing is, like, the ICO bubble pretty much ended with what was she called? That model. I forgot. But yeah, you oftentimes get, like, at least for these kind of ICOs and NFTs, you get like celebrities come in and then just kind of ruin it all. But I mean, it doesn't have to. Like, if the market is still bullish, the underlying market, it doesn't have to mean much. Hilton, yeah, Paris Hilton, cred saves the day. Yeah, Paris Hilton chilled ICOs at the ICO top, and now literally started chilling NFTs a week ago. So that is interesting, but it doesn't have to mean much. If the market is bullish, the market is bullish. It's not gonna care. But it's definitely something to watch, right? It means that the crowd is here. So whatever that means. Katy Perry nails, yeah. But then again, like, when you think back, like, that's the stuff that is in your memory. That's kind of what you think about. But there's a bunch of stuff that happened in 17 on the way up that no one talks about anymore, right? So you had, like, celebrities come in, and then you get the Katy Perry nails at the top, it nukes, and you're like, it should have been obvious. Like, the moment celebrities come in, it's the top, right? But I mean, you've had these things happen. And if you look back on Bitcoin, you could have made the same thing, and then you had Maisie Williams, the girl from Game of Thrones, come in, like, literally, I think here or here, and was like, I'm buying Bitcoin. And then people were like, haha, and it went up. And then, like, let's say this is the top for real. People are going to say, yeah, celebrities mark the top again. But, like, I mean, a bunch of them tweeted all the way up, right? So it's always, in hindsight, it's always easy to say, but I mean, it's not as easy. And yeah, I feel like most people kind of fall into that trap where they're like, it's so easy. It's so obvious, but it's really not. I'm with Loom that top signals are mostly cope. Yeah, I mean, it's something like you look into it, you see how frothy the market is. That makes sense, right? But if you're like, okay, 5 influencers that I don't like have tweeted about this, it's the top, you're probably going to lose money on whatever you're doing, right? So that's that. Anything else you guys want to look at? Because we have a lot of time and a lot of altcoins, and I mean Bitcoin's just pretty straightforward, so we don't need to talk about it too much. So I'll let you have the honors of shilling your cash tax. I mean, I'm gonna have to just deal with the spam. It is what it is. I'll manage somehow. Engine, okay, engine. If you guys want to have it charted against, oh shit, look at that. That is beautiful. This is like the fake out of the fake out. So we've had this head and shoulders. This is what I made fun of for the longest time, right, in here. You guys remember back in the stream, like this went back up and I was like, look at this is setting up to be a head and shoulders. Like that was like 8 months ago or something. And then it nuked. And this is literally where the classical chartists get in and start to short. And, and then, I mean, like that's why I say don't short here or don't like wait for the pattern to complete. I think that's bullshit. Like you see this build up and you're pretty sure, okay, this is gonna play out. Play it from here to the horizontal. Don't play it after the breakdown. It's the same that I showed earlier with Bitcoin, right? So you see this head and shoulders, and then Peter Brand or whoever says, okay, this broke down. This is the short entry, right? And then your short entry, you cannot get that because this is an impulse down, so you cannot get filled there. So the first time you can really get filled is down here. And then you bought, you sold the bottom, right? You sold the bottom and it goes back up. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. Don't trust it, in my opinion. I mean, maybe there's like classical chartists that are going to say, okay, the volume didn't match, so it had to go up. In my opinion, there was a good head and shoulders play, right? Oops. There was a good head and shoulder play. But the head and shoulder play, if you wanted to play it, and I mean, you cannot really short this anyway, but was from here to support. Either way, I mean, I just find that funny. But yeah, so to like analyze this, pretty difficult, right? This is pretty messed up chart. I could see this just start turning into like a Doge cycle. But yeah, holy shit, that's strong, right? It's at resistance right now, but that's a strong move. So wouldn't want to fade that. So if you're looking for an entry on this, on the Bitcoin pair anyway, this is the nearest support. And I think as long as that holds, right? Let's say you're in. I don't know why you asked for this, but let's say you're in. I think as long as this holds, you're good. If it does kind of lose that, I think then you would have to think about this being a range, and you always like get this. I mean, I know that this overshot by a bit, but you always get this kind of back and forth, right? But given the velocity of this move, I just wouldn't want to fade it, because otherwise maybe you're selling into something like this, right? So yeah, I don't mind it. And I think it's bullish as long as it doesn't lose like down here. And I know that's a little bit of a pullback, but like I said, with these altcoins, if you're playing altcoins, you might as well bet for the home run, right? You don't want to be the guy that's trading altcoins, in my opinion, because you can do that better on Bitcoin and better on ETH in this tiny range that is like 5% from low to high. You want to be taking a bet and then seeing it through. And if it doesn't play out and you lose some money, it is what it is. And in this case, I think good invalidation is close below here. Okay, enough about engine, but that's a pretty neat chart. I love that. USD BTC. Kretz already back to this stupid. I hate this argument. Like Kretz managed to make me hate the USD pairs. It's insane. But yeah, the USD pair on this one is actually not that bad either. So you've had this all-time high retest. This is something that I see a lot of times, where you get like an all-time high and then it goes down and retests it, and you get rejected there, right? But that rejection is actually an interesting buy, so you don't want to be selling that. You could argue, oh yeah, this is probably just gonna do the same thing it did the first time it was there. But like generally speaking, oftentimes you just get a shallow pullback and then no, you did nothing to do with alts. It's never gonna end, bro. It's never. The argument is never gonna end. Even if you're not arguing about it, the argument is not gonna end. Like dollar against Bitcoin, but like, what is that supposed to mean? I've never charted that before. Is that even a thing? I feel like you're kind of taking the piss. I mean, we can do this, but like, what does this help? This looks bearish unless we take out 20k. Like, that's like, if you're looking at the inverse chart, like dollar against Bitcoin. Yeah, but I mean, that's basically this, right? So if you're looking at the inverse chart, if it does go back above 20 or below 20k, that would look bearish. Unless that happens, it's just bull. I hate talking about inverse charts because it messes with your head. So the trend is clearly down, and the trend is going to continue to be down unless it reclaims this. So if it does reclaim 20k, I'd expect this to just, yeah, we don't want to talk about that. But unless that happens, we're good to go. In general, and this is something that, this is kind of funny because, I mean, this glaringly obvious on the other side of the equation too, is if it does kind of get back here, that'd be a nice sell for lower, right? And if it does reclaim this, then that would expect, like, then I would expect kind of like it to go up a little bit more. Wouldn't necessarily expect it to kind of get back and trade. I hate the inverse correlate. I wouldn't expect it to just kind of go and just do this, but yeah. So those are the kind of moves on the higher time frames on the inverse chart. But the only thing that's gonna do is confuse everyone that's watching. I mean, it's confusing to talk about in the first place because up is down and down is up. But yeah, I'm bearish until we reach 20k. Oh man, that is not what I said. But yeah, Dogecoin. We can talk about Dogecoin. I mean, that's not that much to say, honestly. Dogecoin is kind of interesting on because like you have Elon Musk talk about it constantly, right? And we've talked about this before on the show with our good friend Dan, which said basically if news don't do anything anymore, bullish news, it's a little bit worrisome, right? And bullish news in Doge's case, because there are no bullish news for Dogecoin, are Elon tweets, right? So he's tweeted pretty much any time you've seen a green candle on this, and he's tweeted a bunch of times. He tweeted here most recently, and you can kind of see what this wants to do, right? So he's trying to pump it, obviously, and the coin actually wants to go down. You can kind of see where this is heading, right? This wants to go down. So I think he's just delaying the inevitable. And I'm willing to say that even though it is trading at support. So I might look like a giant idiot for saying I think this wants to head lower when it's at the best support on the chart. And I mean, just saying that makes me question what I just said. But like, I still think this just generally wants to go down. And it's the cycle of the Dogecoin. It's the cycle of the Dogecoin. And I'm not going to expect anything else from it. Now, could I be wrong? I think so, yes. And I think a good kind of invalidation to have on this, and I don't think you should be shorting this in any kind of way. Much rather just buy the support. But if it does close back above 106 this week, I could see a second leg that kind of ends at like 170 and then down. So that's like the bullish outcome that I can see for Dogecoin. Let's say this closes back as a wick, and then I could see it like kind of almost double from there. But historically speaking, that's one very rare. You haven't actually seen it once on Dogecoin. I mean, you can just look at all of these. They've all been full retraces immediately. You get the candle up, you get the big candle down, and you don't get the typical kind of bubble chart. And the bubble chart is this, right? So Dogecoin doesn't give you that. And I wouldn't expect it, but if it does wake up there, I could see it. I am not going to touch it anymore. That's all I'm going to say. So that's my analysis to Doge. You guys are like an old couple. I've heard that too many times in the last few weeks. It's bad because, I mean, we're all locked down in severe need of people to actually talk to. Haven't seen a girl or like dated a girl since crypto started. No, since COVID started. So life's rough right now, but it is what it is. Let's go through the list of the stuff that you posted. Raven. Yeah, we can talk about Raven. It's one of the ones that I have on my watch list as well somewhere. If you guys remember last time we talked about this, we were trading way up here. And I was like, maybe we're getting a retest into this. Now we've got it, right? And we're bouncing from it. I think in general, if you're in from lower, same kind of story. As long as this holds, you're good. I'm still debating on whether I want to get in actually on this or not. The reason why I'm a little bit hesitating is because, I mean, buying altcoins after they're up 700, 800% is risky business, right? And there's a bunch of altcoins that are actually not looking too terrible. So the choice is a little bit a hard one. So, I mean, we talked about BAT, for example, earlier. I mean, that's the same setup, but you're off the low by 150%. It's a little bit dangerous to think about it like that because, I mean, the fact that this could moon this hard just means that it's really strong, right? But still, like, it's pretty damn difficult to buy into 700, 800% moves on the first kind of weekly retrace. So I'm still watching this. I'm still thinking about it. Haven't made up my mind, but I still think this is bullish as long as it doesn't lose the support. So it's not a bad one. It's just you don't want to be holding it if it does lose that support. That would be really bad news. Because then I would expect this, like everyone that kind of sits in the same boat sees this reclaim and gets bullish, that would be a trap, and that's not something you want to be seeing. BQX. Oh man, we can talk about BQX. Don't ask me what I threw on here. But yeah, BQX is mad, man. It's just mad. This is the lock chart, by the way. Just completely mental, right? So BQX went to almost zero, and this is why I'm saying, like, if you're batting on the altcoins, might as well bat high, because I mean, this went to like almost zero, and then went up 5K%, 6K%. Now, where is this gonna go? I have no idea. I have a bag, not voluntarily, but I do have a bag. And I mean, I'm gonna mercilessly dump if we do get up here. And if we don't, I mean, I have no idea what to do. Like, this one has me stumped because, I mean, it's nowhere near resistance, right? There's no resistance on this chart besides this one up here. So this one has me stumped in the sense that I think, like, okay, it's already up 6K%. I should be taking profit. But then again, like why? Like, there's no technical reason to take profit on this. And it's always been a moon bag for me, so I mean, might as well, right? So I'm looking for this. I hope I get it. Gonna take a bunch off if I do get it, but yeah. So that's kind of like BQX wise. I think that's the sane target, right? And I mean, it's already an insane thing because it's up 6K%. And this is against Bitcoin, by the way. Like, if you're looking at the USD pair, like, this is getting completely stupid. So you're up 48%, right? So everyone that bought it, I mean, you put in like $1,000, and you've made basically what the normal person does in their entire life, right? So that's kind of mad to think about, and that's crypto for you. And then again, you look at the past, and it's actually went down now hard. So I mean, if you bought that side of the equation, right? I mean, you're down 99.9, probably 99, almost 99.99. So crypto is always, and has always been, a cycle of mega moons and full retraces. So you don't want to be stuck holding something too long. But then again, like, you're going to beat yourself up if you take profits too early. So get on Tinder. Women are pretty desperate right now too. Yeah, but fuck Tinder, fuck that kind of stuff. Not a fan of the girls that are running around there either. Okay, that's a bunch of coins. I'm not going to be able to go through them all, I'm sorry. Usually I try to stick to Bitcoin for a little bit longer, but like I said, this time it's pretty straightforward. Which is your favorite crypto in terms of fundamentals? Bitcoin. Bitcoin is. I mean, it's basically Bitcoin and then everything else on that. So you can kind of, like, for me, like, you just have, like, quality-wise, if this is quality, and you have the coins in here, right? I mean, Bitcoin's trading up here, and then all the other coins are trading significantly lower, right? But that's just my opinion, and people are always going to hate on that, and I don't mind. If you think like your tech's superior, so be it. That's fine by me. Don meets his woman via online OnlyFans brokerages. Yeah, that's what I do. I'm just the biggest senator for all of them, and then maybe I have a chance, you know. Sol, a lot of asked for Sol and Serum, so I'll oblige. So this is pretty insane chart. Sol against Bitcoin. We are at resistance, and I think this is pretty much what stands in the way of price discovery on the Bitcoin chart. Now, I already have credit in my ears telling me, and no one really gives a shit about the BTC chart. So let's look at the USD pair, and there you have price discovery already, right? So we have support down here. There's not really like, and this is why, like, oftentimes the USD pairs are pretty rough on the trading side of things, because I mean, there's really not a high time frame support that you're looking to buy here, right? Because if you're looking to buy 4, that's pretty far away, and that's pretty much a bubble pop already because it's so far away, right? So something that you can do for these, and that's pretty much what you have to do on these USD pairs, is if you got any entry on the way up, right? Any entry, you just raise your stop loss. So stop loss down here. So like support's down here, you're trading up here, your stop loss is somewhere below there. So if you close below there, you're getting out. And then same thing happens here, you have consolidation, same thing happens here, right? And same thing happens here. So what you can do, obviously, is bid these supports and then get out of the way if they're broken, right? So in this case, for example, like if you want to be super, super aggressive, I think a little bit too aggressive, I don't like the support too much, would be just bidding this support and then getting out if it does start closing below it. But then you might actually be closing out into like the more significant support, which, I mean, if this goes back down here, I think that would be the good support to buy. But I mean, as you kind of can see, if you've bid any of these supports, you haven't gotten any fill ever since this broke out. So that's kind of the struggle that you have, and something that you can kind of do to fix that issue is just look at the BTC pair and then just trade off of that just use it as confluence basically. And that took a while longer to break out, and it's actually been retesting, and you've actually gotten fills if you looked for them, right? So you got 2 retests here, and you're getting a current one into, I mean, it's resistance right now, right? But let's say this weekly closes somewhere up here. I would say this down here is support, right? So you can actually get fills. Sponsored by Blockfolio, whose parent company is FTX, and looking at Sol, typical chill. Yeah, the funny thing is I'm going to look at Serum next. So I mean, it's not my choice. It is not my choice. Serum is an interesting one as well. So Serum is kind of struggling, and really hard for that matter. So we've had this support, right? It's the same thing that I talked about earlier with like against Bitcoin. You have supports around here. And we actually thought about like maybe including this into the newsletter, but Cred, for good reason, wasn't entirely sure if this was like, if we weren't like, if you're saying, okay, you're bullish at this support, not entirely sure if it's going to play out. And I'm not sure either. Like normally what you want to see for support, right? So you get a breakout and then you get a quick test and then you moon it, right? In this case, what you did was you got a slow grind into that support, a tiny bounce, and then not much else, right? So that's the reason why we didn't include it in the newsletter, because it really should have done more. Now, if you want to be getting into this, I think the good way to go about it is just get it above this support-ish area, because something that happens in these areas, and I know they're quite large, is you have support down here and resistance in here, right? So you get these buyers at support aiming for high, but while they're doing that, you get a bunch of people that have bought this that are kind of getting unsure about it. They're trying to get to sell the range high, right? So you get these buyers that come in here, it bounces a little, but then there's people that want to get out at the range high, right? So in my opinion, this is more like, if you want to make this, you can kind of take this box, take the middle of it out, and then it's just, you have support down here, you have resistance up here, and you want to break that resistance for it to go up higher. And yeah, didn't include it because you're fat and lazy. I mean, it's a better way to say it. But yeah, that's kind of looking at this. That's what I think. I wouldn't want to jump into this, and just, I know it's at support. I know you'd be thinking, oh, this should go up, right? But it's not my thing. It's taken too long. And if you remember back yesterday, I tweeted about Bitcoin, this retest, right? Typically speaking, it's a bearish retest, right? This red candle here. And I tweeted about this saying, it's a bearish retest, but it's taken, like, it's chilled around there for too long for me to be comfortable shorting it. And what I mean by that is, you got a rally on the lower time frames into that resistance, you got a rejection, and that should have been it, right? But instead of that being it, you got another rally into that resistance, another rejection, another kind of rally into that resistance. So any kind of seller in here that wanted to get filled did get filled, and then it kept coming back for more, right? So whenever you get that, I start getting cautious. I much rather prefer these ones where you just get, like, the market bounces after a clearly bearish move, and then you get near resistance, and then you get a violent sell-off, right? When you don't get what you're expecting to get from a strong resistance, it's usually a bad sign for you. So if you're trying to short this, then, I mean, there's a good chance that you're going to end up underwater. So you got kind of your move to the downside, but you would have had to be quick to get out, because then it just reversed immediately and went back higher. And the same thing is true in here as well. So what you did get is you got a retest of resistance, higher time frame resistance. Got rejected. This is all well and good. Now, if this just kind of hangs around here and it goes back up again, then I would start getting worried for, like, if I was short there, just based on the fact that there shouldn't be like, this shouldn't take that long. You've got you got the stop run here. You got everything that you needed to get. And if it's not selling strong enough, it's a good sign that it might not sell at all. And then you can get out before you're actually invalidated on any front, because you just don't like the way it's playing out. And there's multiple kind of ways to get out of trade. So one, you just get stopped out, right? Stopped out, whatever. And then two, it actually invalidates your close theory or whatever. I mean, that's just how I do it. If you're not doing it, that's not for you. But like, the close is through resistance or support or whatever. So I don't even know how to close bad, whatever. The close is bad, right? And then there's the third one, where you just like, you got into the trade and you expected something like a quick rejection, and then you didn't get it. And that's the third way to kind of get out of it before it actually turns against you. Now that can obviously turn against you when you actually, like, let's say you shorted this and then it takes too long, you get out of it, break even, or like maybe in a tiny bit of profit, and it actually does go down. But in general, most of the time, when it doesn't actually do what you want it to do immediately, then oftentimes your entire idea is wrong. And then it depends on luck if it plays out or not. And that's not something that you want to have, right? So you have that on top of it. And I know this isn't really helpful, it's just for me. But yeah, so 3 ways to go about it in my eyes. There's probably more for other people, but those are like the 3 ones that I look at it anyway. Okay. I've actually been in it for a little bit in profit, but wondering if it should simply help for greener pastures. I don't exactly know what you're talking about anymore. If sale and institutions buying billions, who's selling it, absorbing? Good question. We can talk about this real quick. So you have Bitcoin trade like this, right? You had institutions and billionaires come in here, and in here, right? So all of these people down here, there were only a few, but all of these people that bought in at 10K, they're up like 5x. All these people that bought in at 17 to 20K, they're up more than 2x, right? What these institutions, or like bigger players, billionaires, whatever, have been doing, or so I've been told. I haven't checked with them personally, but what I've been told from trustworthy sources that I know is that a bunch of them have actually been just taking half off. So imagine you bought 20K, you're not a crypto native, you just bought it because you thought, okay, this is a bubble in the making, or this is gonna go up because the backdrop is really nice. And then it goes up immediately, right? You get a bunch of money immediately. What are you going to do when it hits 40, 50, 60K? You're going to take some off, reduce the risk against Bitcoin that you're kind of carrying, make it so that even if this goes to 0, because you're not a native believer, you're completely fine with it. But if it has more upside, because you know these kind of things can have more upside, you're still positioned in it, right? So you take some profit on these, let the rest run. And I've heard from some that they're gonna let it run for pretty much forever, and they're completely riding it risk-free. They bought 20K, they're taking a bunch off here. Even if this goes to 0, they're still gonna be in profit on this entire thing. So you have a bunch of those, and obviously there's a big difference between, like, let's say you bought in here and you're selling up there a bunch. Bitcoin's now like 4 or 5 times more valuable, so that sell is going to affect the market a little bit more than it used to down here. Also, you get people like me, and I hate talking about this because I mean I missed out on a bunch of profits that I could have made, that just take profit on the way up. I've done that. Started too early. I mean I basically started here, taking profits, and so you have those people obviously as well. And that pains me to say because like those cells look so fucking bad now. I mean, they looked really good before this happened, right? They look bad now in hindsight. But yeah, so you have a bunch of profit takers, just generally speaking, in the like crypto natives, and then you obviously like, let's say you're a crypto holder, and Bitcoin goes up this much, and you're an OG holder, you might be looking to just kind of get some and kind of get something in real life for it for holding so long. So there's obviously gonna be a bunch of sellers after a rally like this. It doesn't mean it has to end. Doesn't mean anything really. What does have a meaning, in my opinion anyway, are the technicals, and if there's any more billionaires waiting to buy, basically. Serum, but I should sell Serum now at profit. That was what we're talking about earlier. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. I would want to see it, like, if it does lose the floor, that would be bad news. Back to Serum on the USD pair. I mean, that's actually probably nicer for you if you're trading. I don't know which pair you're trading it, but if you're trading it this way, you have support here. If that gets lost, I'd be worried. So you're gonna give back a bunch, but I mean, that's just, oops, I made it super ugly. Black and background. Yeah, so if it does start losing this, I'd start getting worried. So I mean, that's the one that I'd be watching, and that's it's a reasonably sized box that is reasonably close to price. So if you're losing support in the fours, I would expect this to retrace quite a bit. And where's next big support? Yeah, that's a little bit more of a tough one, but roughly here. So lose this, I think there's a good chance it just kind of puts in a big retracement. I'd be actually interested in looking for buys in this area. Normal portfolio rebalancing, yeah. On top of it all, like let's say you've been in Bitcoin since 5K, right? And you only want Bitcoin to be like 10% of your net worth. I mean, that's going to be much bigger. And then at some point, you're just going to rebalance. It's true. Eventually, the number of greater fools runs out. I mean, if that's the way you think about crypto, you're fine as well. I think in general, if you think like that, it doesn't make much sense to be in the market, because if you're not bullish on a market, you don't want to be trading it, because you want to be looking for the market that you are actually bullish on. Because something I told you guys about earlier is that you want to be betting big at stuff where you think it's bottoming. And the reason for that is, if you bet big in this, right, the upside is ginormous. Now, you're obviously not going to hold all of it all the way up, but still, the upside is ginormous, right? I mean, you put in a bunch of money here, you're going to walk away rich. Basically, everyone's rich now, just based on the rally of Bitcoin, right? Now, if you do the opposite thing, where you're shorting the absolute Pico top, and the other thing that I showed you just now was a 10x, right? Now, let's say you're shorting this, and now you've kind of you've made some money, but you're obviously far from where you kind of would have been on the upside of things, right? I mean, it's just, you can obviously rebalance your short, whatever, but still, it makes much more sense to be bullish than to be bearish something. On a or in general, it makes much more sense to trade a market that you're bullish on than one that you're bearish on, because there's much more to gain in a market where you're bullish on. Crypto is a trader fool's game, zero use case to date, and 100% speculation. I mean, speculation is a pretty good use case, right? I mean, if you're looking at poker, for example, I mean, you could say the same thing. It's completely useless for humanity, right? But I mean, there's still a lot of money there. I don't want to say Bitcoin is only there for speculation. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm a little bit disappointed with the scaling that's been going on, but I mean, yeah, that's as far as my kind of fundamental issues go. The scaling is disappointing. That I agree with. But Polka does not trade on exchanges, Don. Yeah, but still, it's still around, right? And this is, I mean, you have a bunch of stuff that is only really traded, that isn't really doing much more. And I mean, even from that perspective, the fact alone that so many people are speculating on it makes it valuable. Crypto can literally replace the whole financial system these days. I can't agree with that, honestly. I just can't. It's not scaling right now. It might be scaling in the future, but it couldn't replace the financial system right now. It just couldn't. The entire thing would break apart. Now, can it do so in the future? That's a different question, right? And it's something that I can't answer. But right now, it can't. It cannot. I mean, ETH's barely holding on, and I mean, it's only a few people using it. But yeah, my fundamental view on all of these things doesn't really matter much. I'd much rather just look at the price because everything else is super complicated and super confusing. There's going to be people that are arguing for, okay, Bitcoin is really bad for the environment, so do not buy it. And I mean, I'm like, okay, this seems like an okay argument to me to not like Bitcoin. And then there's the opposite side of that argument. There's like, okay, but how much should it be worth having something decentralized where you don't have like all these governments in it that kind of control it all? And then that answer is impossible for me to give as well. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Having something that isn't involved in all these kind of political things. And I think like it doesn't really make much sense to argue about all of it. If you like it, you like it, and if you don't, you don't. And if you want to make money with it, you're just gonna look at the technicals, look at who's buying, who's selling, and that's gonna be your playground, and that's my playground. Because I mean, if I'm trying to make these fundamental arguments, for me it's too complicated. I'm too dumb for it. There might be people that are smart enough for it, but it's not me. I'm smart enough to see whether, like when I see price go somewhere, whether I should be trading it on long, on the short side. I know enough to kind of know, okay, is there kind of proportional risk, or is it too much, or is it something where it's not priced right, so there's less risk than people think there is, and that kind of stuff. That makes more sense to me than any of these fundamental arguments. Fundamentals matter though? Yeah, they do. Of course they do. But like, I mean, when you're asking Peter Schiff about Bitcoin fundamentals, he's going to tell you something completely different to a Bitcoin maximalist, right? And I don't think Peter Schiff is necessarily like a stupid human being, right? It's just he has a different view on things. And I mean, that's all well and good, right? But he's been losing, and that is reflected in the price, not necessarily in the fundamentals, in my opinion anyway. But yeah, whatever. Are you worried that there's too much leverage? Right now, not really. I mean, we've had a big leverage washout in this. So not really, no. So yeah, we talked about all of this. We talked about a few altcoins. Anything that you guys wanna touch on real quick, like in the next 2, 3, 4 minutes, because otherwise I'm gonna head off, make myself a tea, and then just have a relaxed evening. Doug, do you still think all altcoins will go to zero, Ethereum being the last one to die? I think there's a good chance that any of these altcoins that you're seeing will go to zero, yes. Now, will all altcoins go to zero? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. It's like, there's probably something in here that has value, right? In my list even, and my list is pretty notoriously shitty, right? But the problem with the altcoins, the story with the altcoins is, you have an altcoin that does something really good. It's really cool, right? Let's say Link, for example. You have Link and it's the best oracle around. Now, if Link stops being the best oracle around, and I mean, who knows if that's going to happen, right? But let's say it does stop, like it just stops being the best one. Then you have a new altcoin that does the same thing, just better, and that's going to be the oracle. And then Link is going to bleed value into the other one. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen or that is happening. I'm just saying, like, in that hypothetical kind of situation. Now, let's say 5 years later, someone has a genius idea how to do it better, and then you get the value drain into here. Now, that could return, like, this could go on and on and on and on for years and years and years and years, right? So if this, like, before Link, there were a few other Oracle coins, right? And there will be other ones after it. Now, this list can go on for like 100 generations, and then 99 of those generations are going to zero. So saying Link is going to be the one is really, really tall order, because who knows what's going to come out in the future, right? And I mean, you could make the argument for Bitcoin too, but then again, like, Bitcoin being the first one and Bitcoin being the way it is, only really has, like, the Bitcoin use case is only really there for Bitcoin, not for something that comes after it. And that's, like, in my mind, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not a fundamental kind of person, why Bitcoin is really hard to dethrone, while the altcoins are really easy to dethrone. Now, Link could be the one, and if it is the one, it's gonna moon, like, really hard, right? But I can't make that judgment call. I think that's really hard to do. So in my mind, the chance of all of these going to zero is really high. Just because they're gonna be, and you're seeing this with ETH now, right? You're seeing this with ETH because ETH is the major one, and then ETH fails to scale, and then something else comes up. Now, is that something else gonna overtake ETH? I don't know. If it does everything that ETH does just better, I think it will. So far, we don't have that yet, but I mean, it can happen in the future, right? And then, yeah, it's just a winner takes all kind of situation with these coins, because if someone or a project does it best, it's probably just gonna drain all of the other ones. And that's the problem with the altcoins that you don't necessarily have with Bitcoin. So to answer the question, no, I don't think all of the altcoins are going to zero, but picking the right one that is going to make it in the end is almost impossible. Now, if you can do it, there's big money in it, but if you can't, then just don't. And that's what I'm sticking with. But I mean, I'm not a Link hater. I actually wanted to include it in the newsletter for a possible kind of return to glory. I'm not entirely sure if that's going to happen, but, like, I think if it does close above this again, that's, like, I would, like, almost 100% buy that breakout, even though it failed twice before. I was lucky that I didn't see this, because I would have probably just traded those two. But yeah, if there's a third kind of breakout, I would take that. So I'm not hating on Link per se. I'm just saying, like, in general. Cred asked for sushi, so we can look at sushi, just because he's my friend. And the problem with all of these coins that look like this, right, is that I can't tell you much more than just, I mean, it's bullish until it's not, and until it's not, make sure that you're just chilling in it. Or, I mean, if you're not chilling in it and you don't have a setup to take, I mean, it's just rough life. Because, I mean, all of these setups, I mean, for me personally, this is really tough to take. Now, could you take it? And we talked about this before, I think. Could you take the range low? Of course. And if you got filled, you're really happy now. And it's the same all over. It's just making higher lows, and it just keeps on going up. Now, if it does break that once, I think it's going to collapse. So you're just going to have to look out for that. So basically, don't start closing below this green box. And if you do, it's going to nuke, I think. And when you see that, and when you see me draw this, and you want to get an entry, no matter the cost, I mean, you know where it's closest to invalidation, right? And closest to invalidation is this box. So if you really, really want to get an entry and you're really bullish on sushi, I mean, you can try this box. Now, it's up a shitload already, but that doesn't really matter much with these coins. But yeah, you can try this box, and if it fails, I mean, it's probably just going to collapse, and then you're just going to buy lower. That's kind of my view on this. So that's the way to trade these. And If you're buying the box and it mega nukes and you're blaming me, I mean, I'm just gonna be sad because I told you. If it fails, I mean, it's gonna fail spectacularly. But until it does, it's gonna win spectacularly as well. If you do, it'll go down a little bit and Sam will buy it all. Also very possible. Also very possible. But from a technical kind of perspective, let's say this does break and you get stopped out if you took that trade or whatever, or get stopped out in general. And Sam buys it all down here, right? So what you do is Sam buys it all, pushes it back up, and then you just reestablish here. You've lost like, what, 2%, 3% maybe, after taking a gain of, or maybe like 10% even, after taking a gain of like 2.9k, or let's say you got in like somewhere here, after taking a gain of like 3x or 4x, and then you take another 2x on top of that. That's the way to play these, in my opinion. You don't want to be the guy that holds the bag in the end, and to ensure that, you kind of have to bleed out some value whenever it actually invalidates you. And in this case, in my opinion, it invalidates you below the green box. I think that's the best that you're gonna be able to do. And if you're an investor, you just hold it till you think it's at fair value. Okay. Don, are you in a trade now? And if so, what? If you don't mind saying. So I mean, I can't really margin trade right now, so it's a little bit tough to say. Okay, I'm in a trade, but I have some Leo. That's been rough. I mean, I'm up. I'm still up, like 10%. 10%. It's not moving much, and it's just been chopping, and it's been driving me crazy. So I'm gonna have to reevaluate this. I thought it would go harder after the Tether announcement. It's not been going hard, so maybe I'm wrong. So I'll reevaluate this. It's the same thing that I did with Zcash. So I bought Zcash here, it mooned, and it didn't do what I wanted it to. So I sold it back. I think a little bit below there, actually, somewhere in here. And then you take a tiny win, and then you don't get wrecked on the downside. And then obviously I have this, which I hope I get to dump. Not entirely sure. And that's almost it, because I still struggle with the altcoins when Bitcoin's trading at 50k, just based on the fact that any altcoin I buy is less Bitcoin that I have, and that's a tough judgment to make. But then again, there's been some really good opportunities, and I'm never gonna say I played this perfectly, because I really didn't. Like, my portfolio is up a shitload since this move, but I think this is the first time in years that I've actually been outperformed by quite a few people. And I don't want to say that to brag, and I'm not saying like quite a few people, like 10. I'm saying a shitload of people actually, in percentage terms, played this much better than I have. So, yeah. You never, like, I don't think there were many people that played this entire part of it better than I have. But I think there's a shitload of people that played this better than I have. It's not to say that I didn't make any money here, because I did. Pretty hard to not do that, but yeah, could have made more. But I mean, you always can make more. It's just how it is. Don is always long 1 inch. Fuck off. That's actually not a bad one, though. That's not a bad one. Gotta give you props. But yeah, that's it. Big shout out to Blockfolio again for sponsoring the show. Really look forward to working with them. They've promised us ref links, so that's gonna come out soon, and I think it's gonna be pretty nice. So if you wanna get that, we'll have something in the next few weeks, I think. If you wanna check out the newsletter, Credit's linking it, and I mean, we have this show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so make sure to kind of tune in and come hang out. So yeah, I appreciate you guys coming by, and appreciate you hanging out in the chat, and everyone that watches it after. So yeah, have a good evening. Bye. And before I leave, I mean, press the like button so I don't get bullied the entire evening by cred. Even though, like, I mean, I'm probably gonna get bullied anyway, but maybe less so. Maybe he's gonna bully me less if there's a few likes on the video. But yeah, I appreciate you guys coming by. See you next time. Bye bye.